KKR, you know KKR, you've heard of them, right? Vaguely. You heard of KKR?
In my older Drexel Burnham.
Yeah, it's like arguably, you know, the most venerable, the most prestigious.
The granddaddy of them all.
The granddaddy of them all. I mean, I could come up with adjectives, but I mean, these guys, no joke. You know what I'm saying? They don't play a game. They're not jerking around. You know what I'm saying, guy?
Apparently
they come with a lot of money, and they come to play ball. You know
what they do?
So their big rivals, Blackstone.
Oh,
you know, that's
Steve
Schwarzman. He's like he's sort of faster and more nimble. And he comes
the Jets and Sharks of private equity.
He's just a madness. He's got all sorts of other businesses. He doesn't even just do private equity. So Blackstone goes public. Was it last summer? Was it year and a half ago? Right?
How's that working for him?
Well, the Blackstone IPO at the time was pretty good. KKR now is going. Here's a Blackstone IPO versus KKR, which didn't really go public so much as affected a transaction to bail out their European counterparty, and they're going to bring the whole thing back here and pretend to be public. They'll actually be public. There just won't be, as you'll see here momentarily, any money. $4.1 billion for Blackstone, nothing for KKR. For Blackstone, it was an IPO in the NYSE. KKR reverse IPO via Amsterdam. The founders take at Blackstone $680 million. Believe me, don't cry a river for our friends at KKR, but the $0 coming out. Here's the real thing, though. Let's hear it. There's a big party there. Where? Take a look. No, Steve Schwarzman, who runs, has a big. His birthday was concurrent.
That was quite the event.
I think Guy was actually there. You can see Donald and there's Barbara Walters. They had it at the Armory, which is a very swanky venue here in New York City. Rod Stewart sang privately at the party. That was quite the affair.
I'm sure Rod did a lot of things at that party.
Yeah, all right. Well, I mean, you were there, so you would know. Anyway, you'll notice that KKR actually booked the same venue that they used for the launch of the Palm Centro on the day that Apple launched the iPhone. Take a gander here again. Henry Kravis, night before the reverse IPO distribution, whatever they're calling it, out of Amsterdam. All joking aside, that was joking, by the way. Okay? All right.
Good.
Yeah, you like that?
Yeah.
It's a Palm Central venue, and it's hot now. Anyway, Daniel Fannin, Jefferies Financial Services, on the fast line with us. If the Blackstone offering marked a top, Daniel, the peculiarities of this transaction, do they mark a trough?
Well, I certainly think it's an opportunity that KKR is taking advantage of with the attractive share price of the KPE shares in Europe. And I don't know if it's going to mark the bottom, but I think when you look at the trends in the businesses for Blackstone, Fortress, or KKR, they certainly have changed pretty dramatically for the worse in the last 6 to 9 months. And, you know, whether I don't think we can predict a rebound in any of these businesses overnight, but I think it's hard to imagine that activity slowing down much more than it is right now.
Karen, your thoughts when you look at this deal and you look at recent KKR transactions?
Well, even though it might certainly not anywhere near the top that we there's a couple of fairly recent KKR deals. The KPE one, which they're in Amsterdam, that came, I think, it was as high as 20.
Yeah,
it was 10 and change before today.
Yes.
And then there's KFN, which is sort of funky finance vehicle. Also have a very, very tough time. I think it's down about 60%. So it doesn't make me want to rush in and buy this
This particular piece of paper. Daniel, what about yourself? Are you recommending people buy this stock when it lists by way of Amsterdam here in New York?
Well, I don't officially cover this stock. I do cover Blackstone and Fortress, and we do have an underperform on Blackstone and a hold on Fortress. And a lot of the themes that work with those two companies would work with KKR, and that you've just seen a dramatic slowdown in investment activity, and so the rate of deployment of capital and deals has slowed. And more importantly, though, I think the outlook for incentive fees, which really comes via the public markets, is much more difficult to predict. And certainly, I don't think in the near term we expect to see them booking any sizable gains on any of their investments.
Right. There's a variable here that doesn't exist the last time around, in that we had a really smart seller making a lot of money last time in Steve Schwarzman and his partners at Blackstone. Now we've got a very smart operator not cashing out. Is there any positive interpretation on the personal behavior of Henry Kravis relative to Steve Schwarzman?
Well, I would think that this means, when they're thinking long-term here, them
to Steve Schwarzman.
Well, I would think that this means, when they're thinking long-term here, them not selling equity here at the bottom on a personal level, I think highlights that they believe that their businesses are fundamentally undervalued. And even though they're going to be locked up, 6 to 8 years post this transaction for selling for the majority of the insiders, I do think this means that they do think they're going to be able to create a lot of long-term value.
And, Jeff, we talk about that a lot. Your thought of these gentlemen on a personal basis not cashing out at what they presume to be a price lower than what the deal in the future.
I think think they're super guys, whatever. But Steve Schwartzman didn't cash out to that much of an extent either, and that was the argument he's going to keep 80%.
Right.
This gives them the vehicle to do it. Smart people with more information than you are selling, grab your wallet, back away slowly, particularly if it's some Amsterdam deal that you don't really understand. It's more confusing, and it's smarter people than you selling a bunch of stuff on the inside. They're not cashing out. That's the best thing you can say for it. But right now, the business fundamentals seem terrible.
Yeah, Dan, a pleasure. Thanks for getting on the horn with us tonight. Dan Fannon, Jefferies Financial Services, the analyst there. When's your birthday, Pete?
December. I'm a Capricorn.
We can book that same venue probably for you.
Thanks a lot. Yeah, same group will show.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, we'll take a break. We're back. Zach Carabell here on why you might want to nibble on consumer discretionary names, beaten senseless though they may be. I mentioned Guy Adami back from vacation.